Ready? Okay, great. Good evening. Welcome to the September 20th, 2016 Sherborn Board of Selectmen meeting. Before we start the regular part of the meeting, we have a potential executive session, and I'm going to move that the Board of Selectmen enter into executive session under Chapter 38, Section 21A3 to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, since a discussion in open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the town's litigation position, and Section 21A7 to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law, Chapter 214, Section 1B. Do we have a second? And
Second.
I'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Yan seconds. I'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Yan.
Aye.
Mr. Durensis. Aye. Mr. Brandon.
Yes.
Mr. Colleen. I am also aye, the chair. And with that, we have a vote. We're going to go into executive session. We will return to open session probably at 7 or before.
We're not going to state what the litigation is?
We have not stated what the litigation is. We've got town council here. We don't. Okay, great. Ready? Good, great. We're back in regular session. We're going to ask our town administrator to please read the agenda for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, the reading of the agenda, vote to approve or amend the agenda and add topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance. The first item was we had amended the executive session citation, then adding reading of remote participation for Marion Nutra under item 3A. And that's under consideration of appointments. And then add an appointment of Zachary Spillman to Leland Farms Board of Trustees for a 3-year term under item 3A. And then remove consideration of town general insurance carrier under item 5. And add a new one, item number 5, Inspector General draft comment review regarding shared health agent position. And then the rest of the agenda is public comment, consideration of borrowing, bond anticipation note, $130,000 on June 29th, 2016 for front-end loader. And then public hearings for fee increases for the Sherborn Fire Rescue Department and the Building Department. Then consideration of appointments, Chris Owen, Planning Board, to term to expire May 2018. Michael Lesser, Conservation Commission, to expire June 15, 2019. Charles Tyler, Recycling Committee, term to expire June 15, 2019. Carol Rubenstein, Recycling Committee, term to expire June 15, 2019. Ruth Johnson, Board of Registrars, term to expire April 1st, 2019. And then consideration of Land Acquisition Committee appointments. And then Town Administrator Report, consideration of Reserve Fund transfer request for salaries. And under Selectmen Reports, our Selectmen items are Selectmen Reports. Meeting calendar, set the next meeting of July 13th. Consideration of minutes for February 25th. 2016, March 22nd, May 11th, and May 25th of 2016, and then consideration of payroll warrant.
Okay, very good. Do we have a motion to amend the agenda as requested by town administrator?
So move.
There's a second on that? Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye, great. Okay, good. We have public comment, and in the interest of time, we usually keep that to 2 minutes. So we have Mark Brown, if he's here, otherwise Neil Kessler. Okay, Neil, go ahead and come up to the microphone, please.
So I don't know if you got copies of the timeline. I sent an email.
You did?
I did. I sent
It's very helpful, thank you.
I didn't see.
We'll deduct this from your time. You said 2 minutes.
Chester, second.
Great, thank you. I know you're jam-packed tonight, so I do appreciate the time. So basically, the reason that I wanted to come in tonight was to talk to just sort of the urgency of the timeline around 40B development. As you can see on the graphic that I have there, there's 4 projects that are in the queue and impending 40B projects for the town. And I just wanted to I know that there was talk at the last Selectmen meeting about reconvening the Housing Partnership Committee and all the things that go along with that. building a housing production plan and the rest of it. And the one thing I wanted to say was, given those timelines there, the part of them that's really critical in my mind is the fact that after a site approval letter comes out from Mass Housing, that the applicant is then free to submit their application to the town. And once that happens, the clock starts running, their project takes precedence ahead of anything else that the town might develop. And so if you look at the timeline, I kind of put a big line vertically down through August 1st, because I think at this point, that's really the kind of critical date. If there can be a housing production plan that's in place, or it's in the process of being approved with the state, which I know that I don't know if we can hit that August 1st date, but we can probably get pretty close. It's going to be really imperative. And then any kind of projects that might be aligned with the housing production plan, something that's town-driven, smaller, maybe all rental. If we can get those things, at least an application in or something like that by that August 1st date, that's going to be really important. After that, the ability for the town to control its own sort of affordable housing destiny goes down drastically. So the only thing that I wanted to do tonight was to just urge the board, and I know you don't have a meeting again until July 13th, but just to urge the board to get the Housing Partnership Committee seated and running as fast as possible, because literally every day that goes by, the less town control, the less the town has control over its sort of affordable housing future. Otherwise, once the projects are submitted by applicants that are larger, their projects by date virtue are going to take precedence over anything else the town comes up with, even a housing production plan after the fact. So even if there's a special meeting needed or anything like that, I would just urge you to act with all haste. So,
Okay. That's it? Okay, thank you.
okay, thank you.
I think that was our intent to act with all haste. We did vote to reconstitute the housing partnership. Have we advertised for that? Is that proceeding?
Website, it's been in the paper.
We even have one applicant.
We have an
We
application.
have one applicant already.
She's sitting in the front row.
So when is that coming back to the board for appointments?
Hasn't gone to the days, this is the press release. So it was just done last week.
Is this meeting started?
So a second meeting in July. According to this timeline, it's not quite going to work.
You can do it on the 13th.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Paul, it wouldn't work to do it the second meeting in July, but I am not sure it would work to come up with a housing partnership plan by August 1st. I mean, I think that's pretty ambitious, would be one way to say it. It's just, it's a lot of work in a very short time without any money and without a consultant on board or anybody else.
Well, that's the other thing. I'm hoping we can move forward with a consultant. And I've heard that Chuck has been working on getting us some.
Yeah, I got the name of a 40B expert who I think has primarily represented developers, although I thought you said that he'd done some work for the town of Nantucket.
Yes. So
We need money to pay for this consultant. I don't know if we have an idea how that would happen either.
we have a consulting budget of $35,000.
That was our environmental budget.
Right. A lot of the issues here are going to be environmental.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How long have we been working on the master plan? A couple of years, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's
Isn't it
not-
unrealistic that we could have a affordable housing plan in any months?
Well, I'm
Wouldn't it
not-
take a couple of years to develop one?
I'm not talking about establishing an affordable housing plan. I'm talking about having someone who can assist us dealing with the applications that we know are coming.
So that's a different issue than the commenter had, right? You're really talking about dealing with applications that are in the door beyond the idea of a production plan.
Yeah, I was trying to make two comments. One on the housing partnership, that we want to get moving right away on that. And I heard the feedback on that, when that would happen, and your comment on that. Then I perhaps changed too abruptly, but I did change to a second related subject, which is, given the fact that we have this looming deadline, I think we ought to get in place a housing consultant sooner rather than later. That's not subject to the same kind of delays. It could be done fairly quickly. And where Chuck has come up with somebody that I think is a pretty good consultant, I would say, let's do it.
We also have some expertise on the ZBA. The newest member of the ZBA has affordable housing expertise. Has anyone approached Mr. Brown?
Well, I mean, he's going to be immersed on the Board of Appeals. He's not going to really be able to be an independent consultant for the town.
Yeah, and he has to be neutral until he's
So
read the
we can
others.
put this on the agenda for the 13th, and I guess the question would be, I mean, a couple of questions I can see for the 13th. One would be, who does this consultant report to? In other words, how are they engaged, and who's their liaison, who do they answer to, and how do they know what the town's objectives are other than just sort of a general objective? And that gets back to makes a circle with the master plan and the housing production plan, because until we have a plan in place, we're hiring a consultant to kind of give us ad hoc advice, which is fine. We may need it. I think we do need it, but it would be a lot stronger if we actually had a vision that consultant was operating under.
It's not a perfect world,
I agree with you.
but I think sitting around being naked,
No, that's what I said.
letting
I
these
said
things
I said
roll
agree
over
with
us
you.
isn't a good idea either.
Yeah, I said I agree with you. I said there's value in having this consultant come on now, but I also think that shouldn't be to the exclusion of
Oh, no.
the
I
planning
agree.
board wrapping up its work.
Oh,
and,
yes,
and
yes, yes.
partnership creating a housing production plan.
Yeah, there should be a multi.
Hey, can you guys pull your mics? I'm at the table and I can't hear you. I can't imagine they can hear your conversation.
Sorry.
Or they're not working.
It's the air
Maybe it's the air
That's better.
conditioning. Okay.
So,
You hear them?
It's the air conditioning. Okay.
so I am suggesting we put on the agenda for the next meeting the engagement of a consultant.
All right, and David, this is a meeting. You're not going to be at this meeting, so maybe you can tee that up beforehand.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right, good. Let's see. Next, we've got borrowing. We don't have to wait for the appointed hour for that, right? Oh, is Mark here? Oh, good. Oh, there's Mark. Okay, good.
I just wanted to make a few comments to put this 40B issue in some context. Few of us have been meeting.
Yeah, sit at the mic so the world can hear you.
Mark Brown, 33 Green Lane. A few of us town folks have been meeting, had a concern on these rush of 40B projects. So, and I've got a couple minutes, spend about 30 seconds on each of these handouts. The top page is a zoning map that lays out different 40B projects, either past, current, or possible future ones. The Whitney Farms is shown in blue. That's 48 units. That's stalled at this point. There's a lot of uncertainty about that. We don't know at least I don't know what's going to happen with that. There are 5 red ones. 4 of them are the Trask projects, and then the 59 North Main is Mr. Gately. And you can see the number of units each of these projects has. And then in green, I've shown what I call possible future Bs. And a lot of these green parcels I took off of the MAPC Town Center Planning presentation that they had identified as possible targets of opportunity for dense developments. They didn't specify 40B or not, but it looks like we're kind of targets for 40B. So these parcels include Lake Street, Elliott Street. I added 2 that were not on the MAPC map that have recently been purchased by Lubarski, 31 Hunting Lane, 41 North Main, and then the other 3, Douse, Washington Street, and South Main, were on the MAPC map. And there were others as well. I didn't include them all. There were so many. So that lays out the map. The next is a spreadsheet that shows the results of adding all of these units at one time. So you got the census year across the top, and then total housing units, the 10% affordable target, affordable units built at the time, and the deficit. So we have the 2010 census, and basically that's our baseline today. If you go to 2020, you see we go from 1,479 total housing units to 1,729, which is a 17% increase over 10 years. Those numbers add all of the projects except for Whitney Farms on this page. Also includes Abbey Road, 18 units at Abbey Road. So then you go through and these calculations, your 10% affordable target moves up to 173. The total units built from all the projects shown on the map, except for Whitney Farms, totals to 155, so that deficit is 18. For every affordable unit that you need to provide, I'm assuming that it's a standard 40B project with a 25% apportionment. So you're getting 4 total additional units in the town for each affordable. So you carry that back up to 2030, and you're up to 1801, and then you do the same process again, and in 2040, you're at 1829, and you're at a 24% increase over 2010. Now, the next one, I took a couple of these slides off of the MAPC Town Planning Forum. The first was showing, demographics really sort of absent other influences like the 40B. And, I don't know what their assumptions are. They did the plan, I didn't, but, they're showing a decrease in population through 2030. Not an increase. And then the last sheet is their household projections, again, absent 40B issues, and they're showing very, very modest gains compared to what the 40B is providing us. So, my takeaway from this is that, we're in dire straits, and we as a town need to take action, and very aggressive action as soon as possible, and I applaud the idea of getting a 40B consultant on board as soon as possible.
Great, thank you. Well, we don't really have this on the agenda, so this was on for public comment. You have a question, or?
Just to respond to what you were discussing. 30 seconds.
Highly irregular, what does the board want to do about it?
I'd like to hear from him. He's got
Great.
good ideas. He's trying to help us.
Good, okay, excellent. This is not an autocratic chair, I'm going to go with how my board wants to go.
Basically, by the beginning of August, you'll have all 10% that Mark is referring to in application in front of the town. So the reason that I was sort of suggesting that we move with haste was that if we don't, we're not going to have any problems. It's just we're going to take those projects one at a time, and we're going to either think they're a good idea for the town or not. But in terms of planning and a housing production plan and all the rest of that, I was talking to Gino, I think, and at the risk of speaking for him, he was saying you could actually get a housing production plan, at least defined, within about 60 days. You keep the state abreast, you send them drafts and all the rest of that stuff. And so and the group that I've been working with, Mark included, has just been trying to come up with ways sort of to think outside the box, the way to give the town a little bit more control. But that's why I was saying, come the first week of August, the ability of the town to control what the projects are is going to go down, because once an application is into the town, once they have the site approval letter on a 40B and it's in front of the town, it takes precedence. The state is going to look at it as more important than anything that the town comes up with to do afterwards. That's my reason for feeling the need for haste.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, now we've got consideration of borrowing, and Heather, you want to come up and tell us what we're borrowing? Thank you.
It's usually just a recap of something that we all voted for at town meeting, which this is. So Article 9 from annual town meeting, April 2016, Article 9 capital expenditures, item line 2C is a CM&D 2016 front-end loader for $148,000. As you might recall from town meeting, we had to approve the total value of the unit, even though we knew there would be an $18,000 trade-in. That's exactly what ended up happening. We approved $148,000. We had an $18,000 trade-in. The net cost to the town, we paid the bill last week, was $130,000. I actually saw the physical invoice, and it was exactly $130,000. So we are borrowing $130,000 based on the vote at town meeting, that favorable action that the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, be authorized to borrow up to $148,000 pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44. So what I have in front of you are 3 documents that I need a majority of signatures on. We were able, the rates haven't gone up dramatically. I think the last rate we got was 0.75%. We're at 0.85%. It's with Unibank. Issue date of June 29th, and I try to make all of the, oh my gosh, the word just went out of my head, all of the dates that these come due, so the due dates of these notes in March, because it's typically when we do the long-term bonding. So if these kind of come due in mid-March, then we do the long-term bonding on all of the notes at the same time in mid-March. So we also have the one that we did last March, we did $1,018,000. That also comes due on March 10th. So these will come due on the same date, and hopefully we'll have a audit ready to go, and we'll be able to go ahead and do our long-term bonding this year. So what I have are 3 documents. The investment advisor is kind enough to give you guys a green signature sticky.
Okay. And do we need a vote on this? I think we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
But could I just ask, what were the 3 bids on this?
Oh, shoot, Paul. We only had 2 bids. It was Unibank and,
What's that?
I'm sorry, I didn't bring the bid sheet
that's
in.
right. Okay.
It was Unibank at 0.85%, and Century Bank, I believe it was higher. I don't have it in front of me, but it was higher, so I took the lower of the 2 bids.
The other one was Century Bank, did you say?
Yes,
So what bank are we going with?
we're going with Unibank. I can't remember if it was 0.9 or 1.0. I do have it in the office. I don't have it directly in front of me. But this is the lower of the 2 bids.
Do we have a motion, or we have more questions first?
I have one quick question. Aggregate notes, tax exempt bonds that are outstanding in 2016, just ballpark number. You're asking us to certify that it's less than $10 million during calendar year 2016.
I only have $1,018,000 outstanding in short-term borrowings.
Thanks.
And I thought I saw somewhere that the front-end loader was delivered or about to be delivered.
It was delivered a week ago today, maybe? I
And-
bumped into Ed walking across the parking lot on my way to work, and he said, "The front-end loader's here, you need to borrow." So,
So has somebody looked at the front-end loader and made sure that we got everything we wanted and it passes our happiness test?
Probably wouldn't have been the treasurer doing that, I hope.
no.
No, but that's why I'm looking at Sean. Hopefully he can say, oh, yeah.
I have not seen the loader. I actually was driving through the other day and saw that the forks were there that clip onto the front of it. Called Ed and said, "Did you get a loader?" I said, "Yeah." But I think that was Friday afternoon that I called him. I haven't seen it.
Well, we need to borrow the money whether or not the front-end loader came with everything it's supposed to.
Right.
Because we need to be able to pay it. But I do want to have somebody take a look at it and advise us that we got what we ordered and we're happy with what we got.
I trust Ed would have reached out to me and David by now. David? Is Ed happy with the loader?
Yes. Yes? Okay, so I'd move that we approve the loan negotiated by the treasurer in the amount of $130,000 at a rate of 0.85% with Unibank.
Second on that?
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor? The borrowing? Great, fantastic. Thanks,
In
Ed.
the future, do you want me to have the bids in front of you?
Yeah,
Okay,
I like to see just
apologize.
to make sure that there are 3 bids obtained.
Yep, and we didn't get 3, we only had 2. And the
understand.
last one, I think we only got 1.
It's just a procedural
Yeah,
safeguard.
understood.
It's just the lawyer in me talking.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Does Middlesex do this kind of business?
Not that I know of. And some of the banks won't even come in with something this small. They only do bids over
The
500,000.
bank kind of specializes in this space, doesn't it?
I think so. Most of our bids come from them.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
All right, so we're signing that up, but we can, I guess we've got a public hearing, but it's not for 5 minutes, so we should do something else here.
Well, the town clerk needs to certify a signature.
She's watching you sign.
She's watching us. She's got her eye on us. The minutes.
Who has the paperwork?
It's down this way.
Okay.
It's coming back. So Diane, you want to just walk us through the minutes that we need to?
There were a couple of sets of minutes to February 25th. I have to apologize again. Somehow they got lost in the shuffle and didn't come forward. And now, a few months later, here they are. There was a couple of minor changes that the selectmen directors had asked me to make, which I've made. And I haven't heard from anybody else
Okay.
that they had any.
There were motions made with no seconds and stuff like that, so I filled in. I mean, there actually were seconds.
Okay.
They were.
Trust you.
They weren't in the
There were
minutes.
minor edits.
Did you make and second all the motions? No. Okay, so Paul's fixed the minutes, it sounds like. Does anybody else have any other comments on those minutes? No? I don't think they're in our package, right? They were emailed.
They were emailed.
Right.
Okay. Everybody all right with us? Yep. Okay. We have a motion to approve these minutes for the February 25th, March 22nd, May 11th, and May 25th?
So move.
Okay, do we have a second on that? Okay, all in favor? Aye. All right, we've approved the minutes. Let's see. Now I got 4 more minutes.
How about the town administrator payroll?
We can do that. We have a motion. I think we actually have a couple of payrolls. We're a couple of payrolls behind, aren't we?
So I move that all the payments made to the town administrator be ratified and confirmed.
Okay. A second on
Second.
that? Okay, all in favor? All right, great. Diane, do you have the sheet for us to sign?
I will.
Forever? No, I didn't say
And
forever.
then we won't lose it this week? Last week we lost it, but we lost it because I put it on Diane's desk. And that's the last place she would look. And I had no idea where I'd put it either, so it wasn't like I was doing any better. 3 minutes.
Is the school on fire? The school? Is it on fire? You listening?
Okay. We can do a couple of appointments. Should we do the recycling committee appointments? We've got 2 here, Charles Tyler and Carol Rubenstein,
So moved. These are
doing great jobs. Carol's been...
fundamental to our recycling operations. I'm delighted they're re-upping.
Yeah, Carol's been enthusiastic and spent a lot of time and effort getting our recycling committee in great shape, so...
I think she's close to her term being longer than Jack Mulhall's, which is,
You signed on the town clerk line. If you could sign there, hopefully I can.
So we
and I
have,
remember Carol was involved with the Affordable Housing Committee years ago, the League of Women Voters, did a great presentation.
well, we know what Chuck's looking for.
So you need both of them? Yeah.
Okay, great. Here's our payroll warrants to sign. All right, so we have 2 candidates in front of us. I don't think I got a second on the nomination, did I?
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor, this is a nomination,
Just to
Charles
make
Tyler
a
and
friendly amendment
Carol.
to
Yes,
my,
please, yeah.
to my own motion, which is that they should be appointed for a term expiring June 15, 2019.
Okay, very good. So all in favor? On the two appointments? Okay, so Charles Tyler and Carol Rubenstein to the Recycling Committee, and we got one more minute. Let's nominate
Ruth Johnson?
Ruth Johnson.
Yeah, can I nominate Ruth Johnson?
Yes, please.
To be on the Board of Registrars for a term to expire April 1, 2019.
Have a second on that?
Second?
Okay, all in favor? All right, and David, just out of curiosity, why are the dates different for the registrar than the other?
I would have to have Carol answer that, but it's, just the registrars have a different
Yeah,
schedule.
state
It's a
law.
statute or something? Okay, all right. Great, I think we're close enough to 7:15. We can start. We've got a public hearing on consideration of fee increases. First, for the Sherborn Fire and Rescue Department, the ambulance fees. This was a discussion we had a couple of weeks ago?
2 meetings ago.
2 meetings ago. 2 meetings ago. David, you or Neil want to walk us through this? I don't know who's leading.
Yeah,
this.
the Sherborn Fire Rescue Department is requesting that the Board of Selectmen consider increasing fees for permits and inspections. The proposed fees and the fees that are currently in place since 2012 were distributed. At the meeting 2 meetings ago, we discussed what the ambulance rates, and that's what was discussed and increased at that time. This would be the remaining fees, such as the powder and ammunition inspection fee, blasting permit, burning permits, fire alarm, and fireworks display permit, oil tank installation, sprinkler plan reviews, and it looks like those haven't been touched since 2012.
That's correct.
Okay.
Can I ask, do we still, I understand ammunition, but powder, I mean, do we really use flintlocks in town? Do
Yeah.
people come forward with requests for powder ammunition?
Yes.
Wow.
It's more reliable.
We're concerned about assault weapons, we hear all about that, but here in Sherborn, we're dealing with powder.
It's allowed in the law.
So Neil, how were these determined, these increases, just sort of a nominal increase in most cases, or?
Yeah, so what we're trying to do here is certainly not turn this into a business making a profit. What we're trying to do is make sure that we cover our costs. So when we look at permits, obviously, the front end of the permit process is having the permits come in, setting up the appointments, having someone go out, and then afterwards, in some cases, there's follow-up. So what we try to do is increase the fees corresponding with the difficulty of the inspections. And I do want to point out, if you look at some of these fees, we've changed it. For example, the sprinkler plan review. As everyone is aware, we've had a number of multifamily projects coming to Sherborn. So the complexity of those projects is significant. And in the past, we really didn't have a fee for those projects. So I do think it's important as we look forward and have different projects and bigger projects that we are prepared to make sure that the town can cover their cost. And currently, we're using a third-party vendor to help us review some of those plans. So again, this is about covering our cost for these projects and making sure we're getting an appropriate fee for them.
And for those two, that's a good point, which those two, it's sprinkler plan review, residential, all other, and sprinkler plan review, commercial, all, it says fee based upon project. Who would determine that fee? Is that the fire chief? Is it the building commissioner? Who is it that does that?
So what we would propose, and we have spoken to David about in the past, is we use a third-party vendor, all right, to review these plans because they can become pretty complicated.
So you're just paying the vendor's fees?
We're paying the vendors.
Okay, all right.
But then you got to amend the language. This language doesn't do it. Mike is raising a good point. There's a vagueness
That's what I was
problem with
concerned
regulations. Regulations are deemed illegal or unconstitutional if they're too vague. And if you tell people that fees are going to be based upon project, it does create the assumption that,
So can we say fee based upon outside vendor charge for project?
yes,
Okay.
like pass-through, are you going to mark up? We're not going to mark up the bills, right?
I'm sorry?
We're not going to mark up the bills. If we
Absolutely not.
hire a
No.
vendor
No.
for $100, we're not going to
That is
add
correct.
a processing fee.
We'll charge
It's a
$100.
straight pass-through.
Correct.
Because there's no input required on the part of the fire department?
There is, but when it comes to a sprinkler plan review, if the third-party vendor is reviewing that, the level of input is pretty minimal.
You either, it says approved and you file it, or reject, I mean, you don't spend a lot of time discussing it with them?
We typically don't spend a lot of time unless there is some other complicating factors. So again, this is specific to the
But that would be,
sprinkler
but that would be
plan review.
reflected in their bill.
When you talk about another factor, you talk about like a fire alarm or something else that you would already be charging a fee for?
That's correct, yes. So remember, for the bigger projects, there is the initial plan review, right? That may include a sprinkler plan review as well, all right? And then we're going to go out and we're going to do inspections throughout the construction process. So as they begin it, we may go out and we may do a rough inspection, we'll do a final inspection. So there's different fees for different elements of the project, again, to cover the time that we will spend. But for a sprinkler plan, again, if someone else is reviewing it, there's minimal time spent there.
Okay. Do we have a motion on these
Well, I
fees,
have-
or you got questions?
Just another question. At the bottom, it says all failed inspections are subject to a re-inspection fee. And I looked through this and I don't see anything entitled re-inspection fee. So I gather what is intended to be said is that all failed inspections are subject to the same fee being imposed again
That is correct.
for the second.
Yep, so if you have
Because there is-
different language you'd like to use, that would be fine. But
Well,
that's
it-
what we are intending.
So there isn't a separate re-inspection fee.
No, it would apply to specifically what the reinspection would be for. So for example, if we did a smoke detector inspection, we would charge, again, for a smoke detector inspection going back out there.
So how about saying all failed inspections requiring re-inspections are subject to the above fees?
Or how about just all re-inspections are subject?
Okay, all re-inspections are subject to the above fees.
Okay.
Is that okay, Mike?
That sounds great to me.
And do you have language on the fee based upon projects so I can make a motion?
Yes,
that's-
fee based upon outside vendor charge for project.
So I'd, oh wait, this is a public hearing, so we ought to take public comment.
Yep, that's right.
Before I make a
Paul, what was
motion.
your language? All re-inspections are subject to the above fees?
Yes.
Okay. All right, do we have any comments on these proposed fees for fire inspections?
I didn't have a chance to talk to Neil about this before, because I just discovered these were coming before you, so it may be something you want to do down the road. But I would like to see some kind of adjustment on the burn permit fees. Now, Neil tells me that it's actually taking less of their time, but I think it's taking less of their time because it's taking more of our time. But I would like to see you put in place a fee that can be discounted if the online process is used, because it makes a significant difference in my office and in the police department. When people do this, the money goes in the bank without us touching it, and all of the information comes to me and to the police department without us having to key it in, and neither the dispatcher nor I have to wait on someone at the counter. So I would like you, when you determine your fees, I had suggested to Neil that burn permits be $15. If you do them online, you get a discount to $10 plus a thing. But I don't want to go against what he wants to do, but I would like you to consider making a difference when you finally decide what that burn permit will be. It was very successful. The burn permit process was very successful as far as my office was concerned and as far as the police department was concerned. And we did, when people were unable to go on the computer, we did take them into our office if they were willing to do it online, sit them down and walk them through them, because we felt it was an investment for next year. They would be able to do it on their own. And the largest majority of people did that, but it really made a significant difference when someone came to the counter and insisted on paying us and having to fill out the form, wait on them, having to log the stuff in, having the police station having to log it in, and then having to take care of that money. So I would like you to consider that if not tonight, sometime down the road before we get back into burn permit season.
Okay. Any further comments?
Nancy and I talked briefly about it, and I support that too. I don't know if you put $15 in person and $10 online, but it may be easier to amend that schedule now than bringing it back.
Can I just ask Nancy one question? There are a lot of fees, and the one we're doing right now are the permit and inspections. The next one we're going to do in a second is the schedule that has the burn permits on it. But my question is, are there any other fees that are set up so that can be done online versus not online? So what you just articulated, are there any other numbers in here that might apply to?
Well, we do we collect for the detector, smoke detector and CO2, I guess, detector inspections. But at this point in time, I'm just trying to take baby steps so that the departments get comfortable with this process. And when the fire department is ready to put more things on, there is the capability of doing that, and I'm happy to do that. But as it is right now, I don't do the transfers yet. I'm this close to doing the transfers for them. So once we get all of the processes in, I tried to get every department to adopt something so that they would get used to the process before expanding it. But absolutely down the road, there are lots of different things that can go on there. They have to be a set fee. It can't be something that somebody has to, figure out with the projects and so forth.
One approach would be to just increase the burn permit to $15 and add a footnote, all fees subject to a $5 discount if purchased online.
Well,
Because the rationale would be the same, I would assume.
I want to be sure that if you do that, you say the discount plus convenience fee, because there is a 50-cent charge for them to go on. So it would be $10.50. And I'm assuming it's going to stay 50 cents, but we can't be sure of that. So I would say $10 plus the process fee or convenience fee.
Okay, I like Chuck's idea. That would be amending the burning permit, but the way you phrased it, it applied to all fees. So can you tell me that language again?
Well, the footnote would be all fees subject to a $5 discount if purchased online.
Can we say a $4.50 discount based on what,
The burn permit's the only one that's available online.
right now? Yeah,
Right
but she's
now.
trying to,
Smoke
I
detector.
thought Nancy said there was another one, that the
Detectors.
smoke detectors can be purchased online.
Well, and we also have, permits for parking and so forth at the pond and so forth, so.
That's not
I don't
this,
know whether you want to
though.
go.
That's not fire department.
Right.
And I don't see anything here called smoke detector. Is that fire?
Fire alarm,
Fire,
yeah.
okay.
so can we do a $4.50 to reflect the $50 processing fee?
Well, that's assuming that processing fee is going to stay the same. I would rather have you do something generic, like the processing fee or the convenience fee. Instead of doing a number being the name. Maybe it's 60 cents next year. We don't want to.
I understand that, but we're trying to find language. I think I'm in agreement with you, I'm just trying to find language. So right now, we have a number that says $10 for each location. Sort of the sixth item on this list. $10 for each location. Chuck has suggested putting a footnote there, making it $15 for each location, and then subject to a discount.
$5 discount plus processing fee for convenience fee.
Right. It's minus the processing fee.
No, plus.
Plus.
If it's a
Why don't you just
$5
say, all fees subject to a $5 discount purchase online, and then below that say, online purchases subject to a additional processing charge.
Right,
Okay, there, we got it.
there we go.
So all these lawyers were able to come up with a good result.
I think Nancy and Addie did it. I think they had the answers.
But I don't think the chief agrees, and he's
No,
about
I
to
know,
object.
I know. The mic is
We're going to let him object in a second. And I had another question about another one of these, too. All right, Neil.
So 2 points. Number one, again, the theory that we were using was trying to account for increased costs associated with the different types of permits. So I just want to point out to the public that the cost of the burn permits has actually gone down. It has not increased, point number one. Point number two becomes, what you're virtually doing by putting on this type of pricing is impacting the elderly. I'll just tell you, I can't speak 100%, but a large majority of the people who struggle with the online application tend to be some of the elderly within this town. So I understand the move and desire to drive to a completely online process, but I want to point out who you're impacting by going ahead and putting some type of penalty on this, because those are the people we typically have to walk through the system to help them to get these permits. So last point becomes, if we're going to go ahead with this type of approach, I think it's prudent to make sure that we do that for all of the fees across the town. I don't think it's right to go ahead and single that out for the fire and just the fire fees, but rather have a broader conversation about what is the philosophy going to be for the town. So just those 3 points.
So what if we say a $5 discount if you do it online, or if you're over 65? Senior discount. Trying to
It's
respond.
impossible for us to enforce that, right?
I say we just leave it at $10 and be done with it. It's like 180 permits a year.
I had a separate question. This is about the blasting permit. It says it requires a detail 4-hour minimum, $75 permit. It could be viewed that the 4-hour detail somehow is covered by the $75 permit fee. I would suggest moving that parentheses to say $75 permit plus 4-hour, plus detail charge 4-hour minimum.
Oh, wow, I read it the
Is
way
that
you
not
read it, that
included?
it was $75 for a 4-hour detail.
I don't think that's intended, is
The
it?
old one had fire detail required, but also left that open to thinking that,
The 75 does not cover the detail.
It does not, and the state requires a detail for all blasting.
So that would then say $75 permit plus detail charge 4-hour minimum. Okay, and so what we've got, I think, is agreement on everything except the $5 senior tax for people who use the online. No, the $5 discount for if purchased online.
oh, wait,
You got
hold
two
on.
comments?
We
I
got
have
more
a similar,
comments?
wait, I have a similar comment.
Okay.
Because the fireworks display is a $100 permit in detail. Should be
So
written-
just $100 permit plus detail charge.
Detail,
Yeah.
How long is that? Is it a 4-hour minimum?
That would be a 4-hour minimum.
4-hour minimum, yep.
So plus detail charge 4-hour minimum.
Detail cost, 4 hours.
Okay, good catch. Nancy, you had something else?
I was just going to say it was not my experience that it was just seniors, some of it was philosophical.
Okay.
And there are over 400 permits.
Philosophers and seniors.
Over 400.
Philosophers.
Okay.
And one of the
Because they're so easy
things
to buy.
where the fire department has had savings is they have not had to hire extra people to sell because they could be done online, people that, miss it over weekends and so forth.
It was pretty easy to go online, Sean, and buy these permits. I don't know if you knew that.
Working on
Or
it.
two.
We're working on it.
Yeah, go ahead, sure.
Addie Mae Weiss, 1 Jackson Road. Just listening to both sides of the conversation, it sounds like it's a real public safety benefit to our town, and for a convenience standpoint, if in general, as much as possible, people are encouraged to go online and do all applications. And I don't know if the discount is necessary when it's understood, or if there's an education done among our citizens that if it's done online, you're saving resources from town, that they are able to get other business done. And it also seems it's just more expedient that the police department's receiving the information about burning permits faster than they would if you do a standard system. So I think if everyone hadn't thought of how much the town would benefit by using the online versus coming in to town hall, we all like the public face-to-face, but I think that's the answer, just to get the word out to as much as possible. It's great for everyone.
Okay.
And just one more comment, that I would say that if we really want to get people online, There's a couple of things we should be looking at. Number one, our online system is not the easiest system to use. And if you go and look at smoke detector and the purchase and paying for smoke detectors, it is not an easy site to use. So that we should be looking at, by the way the sites operate to make it easier for people. Point number one. I'd also say, as I've said before, I understand there is a cost associated with this, but I'm a firm believer that in this day and age, some people don't like to pay just with checks, they like to pay with credit cards. So the current system that we have today, you pay with a check, and you have to put in a routing number, and you have to put in a bank account number. So I've shared that feedback with Nancy in the past, but I think if we really want to go to that place, those are two things we need to look at seriously so that people will feel more comfortable going online and buying these permits online.
So let me get that straight, because this is something I wasn't aware of. You have to enter your check routing number and your bank account number to get a burn permit?
For a $10 burn permit, you have to enter your account number and a routing
I
number
would
from
think
your
that's
bank
a
to
pretty
purchase a
big
permit.
disincentive to going online.
Yeah, we both made that
As-
comment before we didn't know where our checkbook was.
As the treasurer and just in personal experience, the one thing, we can take credit cards, we can work on a system, I'm not making promises for Nancy, but you have to know that we then pay a 3% fee. So you are going to have to raise fees if you start to accept credit cards, because any time you allow someone to utilize a credit card, you will be charged a 3 to 4% fee for the person using a credit card on your system. So we would have to factor in that cost. It would have to be part of a budget. And I don't know how that works. I'm not saying credit cards are the way to go, but just know that there's a budgetary factor involved in accepting credit cards, whereas using an ACH is a free process, which is where you enter in the checking account number and the routing number.
Well, we pay today a convenience fee for a check. I think it's like 50 cents.
It is 50 cents.
So very simply, if you took credit cards, then you could tack on the same convenience fee. I would think, I'm no expert at this, but you would think you'd be able to tack on some convenience fee, put it on right up front, and people would have to pay that fee right
It
up
would
front.
be
so
like the
doesn't come out of the town.
$3.50, so.
But again, it would make it easier for people who don't have checking accounts. I know my kids, they don't have checking accounts, they use their debit cards, and that's how they pay. So I just think, again, moving forward, we should consider those things.
Oh, they have checking accounts.
They do? Really?
I think it's
Brandon,
got your name on it.
Just
so.
don't know about it.
I just want to say I resent a lot putting my routing number on and my banking information on anything. And I don't do it. I'd much rather use a card. Even though it's going to cost me.
We could have a whole agenda item on paying.
Yeah, I
bills
know. I think we
online.
probably have exhausted
Haven't we done that already?
this.
Kind of what we
Credit
did.
cards is beyond the subject of this agenda item.
Right.
And there's a statute, there's process, there's all kinds of things. And the tax collector hasn't made a recommendation, and that's really her jurisdiction on making payments via
I think
credit
I
cards.
think I'm convinced that I don't want to do a differential fee based on online
At least
purchases
today.
at this point. What?
Today.
I don't want to do it today. Yeah, exactly.
We should just move with what we have.
Well, it's kind of up to the board. We may have a split view on this.
I'm good with where we were before that.
We have more discussion on the $5 discount.
It's not worth spending a lot of time on. I have no problem providing incentive for people to go online. It's efficient, easy. I enter my checking number versus my credit card number. Both are subject to vulnerability, but we're talking about I think it's good to create an incentive to have people do it online. That's what the tax collectors recommended, but I may be a minority of one on that.
I'll join Chuck on that. If the tax collector recommended it, that's her job. People have elected her to do this job,
Cool.
so it's up to Mark, I guess.
May I just add that there's been far more credit card fraud than there has been ACH fraud? And when I get the check that people send me for their taxes or whatever, I put it in a scanner. It goes electronically to a bank anyway. And every time you hand a check to anybody for anything, it's got all your information on it. There's been far less breach of accounts through the ACH process than through the credit card process.
So it's 2-2 up to Mark.
No. We don't. Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I would like
Please.
to make a motion that we approve the proposed a schedule of fees subject to the edits that you made on the details. Yeah.
And fees based on project to fees
That's-
pass through from vendors. So you're not including,
I'm not including the incentive discount.
Okay.
okay?
So that's a motion. Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded. Further discussion up here? Okay, all in favor of Mark's motion? Okay, all opposed? Okay, all right, good. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
All my techie clients are appalled that we're not.
It doesn't mean we can't reconsider the online fee discount. It's just...
Mr. Chair,
Let's use an abacus.
while Mr. McPherson is here, I just wanted to quickly thank him for his service as acting fire chief. He's agreed to stay on in an interim basis and help with the administrative duties, but he has gone to Wayland for an assistant chief position. Just wanted to congratulate him on that.
Thank you.
Oh, hey, congratulations.
Was there something on ambulance fees?
No, we did that a couple of weeks ago. We do have building department fees, Paul. And that is, and we've got
Building
our
inspector.
building commissioner here, building inspector. There's no public hearing required for these, but we've got a hearing anyway, so
It's better, it's good practice.
I think you talked with us a little bit about this the last time, or at least gave some views on it. Do you want to walk us through what's changed?
Oh, well, the changing the fees from $9 to $10 is just probably just bringing you a little bit more current to what's going on around the area, that's all. And even at 10 is still low, but at least if we bring it up slowly, it doesn't feel like it's a big crunch to everybody. The other fee schedule that I had given you was just basically an idea, I just thought that if that was on the website, if people look at it, they would have numbers that would be in front of them to take a look at.
And that's the rest of this, the minimum fees and the
Right.
solar panels and swimming pools and so
Exactly,
forth.
and that's all that's for. And I know it's nothing we're going to do tonight, but it's just something just to throw out there at you to think about.
Okay, so we're not
Oh, we're
approving
not
this
doing
tonight,
this.
or we are?
No, we are.
We are, okay.
Oh, we are? Okay,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't...
I mean, I think I think we had the discussion a couple weeks ago, and then tonight was going to be the
Oh, great.
the
good.
vote on that. And these are based on, are these the same fees, or have some of these gone up, or?
Some of them have gone up maybe $30. There might be a couple that have gone up to $50, but that's pretty much it. And again, these are in line with some of the communities around there in this area here.
Okay.
If I may, the main difference in this one to what we discussed was a split in the residential and the commercial rate.
Right.
We hadn't had that before.
Right, we were talking about a flat $10 rate for both.
Okay. And we had talked, I thought, about a roof fee or some kind of small scale fee. I see there's a minimum fee now, window siding roofing, $50. So that's not part of the 10 per thousand?
No, it is part of it.
Is it part of the 10 per thousand?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is
The
the fee?
siding roof at the minimum at 50.
$50? Okay. 150, isn't it? Thank you.
Well, so that's a question then, was that supposed to be 150? I thought you said a flat fee for roofing,
Well,
windows and
that's,
siding the last
that was
time.
the discussion I brought up. And then
And I
I
thought
somewhat dropped.
Henry was in favor of that, but
No, he was not.
he's not in favor.
He was
Okay.
not.
All right.
And I discussed it with him after the fact. And some of it, I went back and calculated, for instance, that one project that we had talked about. And it was quite an extensive project that really probably wouldn't have fit into that.
Okay.
And shouldn't have, because it required, I got to imagine, at the cost it was, it must have been a little more significant than just a re-roof.
That particular permit was tied into 2 roofs and reciting a whole barn. So if you kind of separated the roofing permits away from that, that was a fee of $90,000. So it was almost impossible to say you can't charge them $9 a thousand, because if somebody else comes in and comes in with a $75,000 fee, and you just say, well, it's $150 across the board to everybody. To me, I don't know, if it's based per thousand, then you have to kind of look at it that way with the minimum.
Right.
That's all, it's the same across the board for everybody.
In that one specific instance, Henry, after we received the letter, I think you went back out and discussed it with the
I
owner.
did. Yeah, and I adjusted the number for them so that, going through the situation, understanding the situation. So we try to take the common sense approach on and try to be, flexible with it on some of the numbers. But it's just, if you say per thousand, and somebody reads per thousand, and you just say, well, I'm just going to charge you $150 because you're a friend of mine or something. It's just not, to me, it's just not the same across the board, that's all.
Now, were you saying this windows, siding, roofing should actually be 150 and
That
not
should be-
50?
That's a type mistake, yeah. That should be 150, sorry.
Okay, that's 150.
Yeah.
Well, could I say the fundamental change is the increase from $9 to $10 for residential. And I see that you've done a comparison to surrounding towns, and we are lower than all of them. That Dover, Needham, Millis, Holliston, and Medway are all already at $10 per thousand. And Norfolk is at $11 per thousand. And Medfield and Natick is at $15 per thousand.
Yep.
And so we're at 9 per thousand, well below
That's right.
all of these. And your proposal is a split proposal, 10 for residential, 12 for commercial.
Yeah.
Seems fair to me.
All right.
Can I ask a point of clarification? So we're really looking at $150 for windows, siding, and roofing for both residential and commercial?
At a minimum,
That's the
minimum
minimum
permit
permit
fee.
So if I want to replace one window, it's a $150 permit? Seems awfully steep.
So, I mean, that's why we're here to
Because it's
talk
also
about
included in the roofing, the roofing thing, I understand. That's going to be an expensive project, and
Yeah.
it just seems,
I think it's fair to talk about what that minimum cost is. I mean, $10 wouldn't cover our cost to do the admin. And maybe we think it is 150. He has to, how much time do you think it takes to just fill out a permit card and collect the fee?
Well, Jeannie's taking it in downstairs, filling out, putting a routing slip on it, comes up to my desk, we do the, look at it, issue the permit, do the inspection. Okay, so I mean, there is some time in it, you're putting a couple of 2 or 3 hours into it, so. I mean, you could take an approach and have, it if it's a single window, maybe make it $100 or something like that there, but you have to have a minimum fee someplace, and that's all.
I understand that concept, it just seems,
Yeah.
a lot.
So what are you proposing, 100? What do you propose as a?
Well, can we break it out from the siding and roofing? Because, last time I had my roof done, it's tens of thousands of dollars.
Then the minimum didn't matter though, because it goes to the 1,000. It's going to kick off of that.
Typically, when the roofs come in, they're going to be a permit fee of about, the cost is going to be between $15,000 and possibly $25,000, because of so the minimum fee kicks in, plus there's a little bit more on
I
it.
think what
so-
Mark's saying is if you get a window, one window replaced, it's going to cost you whatever it's going to cost you, $1,000 or whatever a window costs, and it's
Right.
a 150 permit fee seems a little steep
Yeah.
for that small of a
Yeah,
project.
that's, I mean, we can be flexible on that there if it's a single window or a single door or something like that. It's just, I got to throw some numbers at you so you at least,
So you have the ability to adjust these?
sure. All you got to do is just tell me. You tell me what you want, we'll do it.
Yeah, no, we can
Oh.
adjust them up
No,
here.
but I mean,
I see, okay.
The minimum should be based on what we think our cost is. I mean, anything that requires an inspection, he just kind of pegged it 3 hours of just random admin costs, including his,
Yeah, so I
you
mean,
gotta say an hour is gonna be an inspection.
Perhaps it should be
So what's that
phrased
cost?
differently. Maybe it should be like $50 a window. And so if you're doing 3 windows, then you get to the 150. But if you're doing 1 window, it's,
No, you don't want to do that. He's going to be down there trying to figure out permit fees. You got to be able to walk up to the window or wherever and pay that. We're at 100 right now for minimum building fee, right?
right. So we could keep the windows at 100 if we needed to. We could keep the roofing at 100 if you wanted to as a minimum. But I mean, if they increase over the per thousand, then,
Yeah,
Yeah, it only sits there. It only sits there, and as soon as you hit the,
yeah, then it applies, that's all.
So 100 for the windows, siding, and roofing?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we could do that.
okay. And then I had a question for you, Henry. Zoning violation, 100 per offense. Now, do you charge 100 per day? I mean, typically, most towns, it's a day of violation, right?
Yeah, that can really get out of control in a
Oh.
hurry, so yeah. I take the approach first of trying to go up and talk to them, and if we can work it out that way, if it becomes a point where we can't work it out, then, yeah, I think we need to do it per day on something.
Well, I was just going to suggest here, where it said $100 per offense, to have something in there that indicates that that's,
Each day is a new
each day is a new
offense.
offense or something like that.
Agreed, yeah.
I also have a suggestion, double the original permit fee for commencing work without a permit.
Yep.
Under the current fee schedule, it also says without posting it. So I have to both have a permit and post it physically.
Yeah.
That's harsh.
Same thing.
Sounds harsh. What if it blows down, or?
I like that.
I just would add work commencing without a permit or failing to
No,
post
you
a
pegged it
permit.
to a
Yeah,
dollar amount.
I mean, the purpose there is so that when you drive by and see a construction site, you,
Maybe it is different.
Yeah, in some cases with the posting of the permit, just being in the field for 30 years, if you have the permit there, it can get lost. And then if they come in and see me, I'm hitting them with for a new permit for $50. So I'm somewhat flexible on that there. I kind of keep an eye on what's going on with the permits and stuff like that. And as long as they have it on the job site, if it's inside the house, inside a door, but typically I've asked them to put them in the windows.
but
And-
if
yeah.
you're proposing to simply have the fine for starting work without a permit, not
Yeah.
the posting, that's fine.
You know, I think that's strong enough.
Great.
Try to get our point across.
Great.
Do we have a motion on these?
So move.
Well,
Oh, we have more comments?
well, you just moved it,
Any
you
more
can second it,
discussion?
and then I just noticed something. The way he worded, the second to last line, the reinspection of non-compliant work, I like the wording there better than what we had on the fire,
I know.
for the reinspection.
Yeah, but this is,
But you don't want to reopen
I think
it.
we've already voted
Yeah.
the fire ones.
But he does have a fixed rate, and the fire was going to go just back to the original rate of whatever the
But this,
inspection was.
now, I would say, on the other hand, this $50 seems quite low for inspection of
It
non-compliant
is.
work. I mean, if, we're going to charge somebody $100 for a window, I would imagine re-inspecting a non-compliant swimming pool is going to be a lot more than $50. So
Well, this is just his trip fee back out, basically,
Right,
right, for a
right.
reinspection of it.
Right.
But you don't charge another permit fee, do you?
No.
Like the fire department does?
No.
So for each reinspection, it's $50. If he's got to get back in his car and go back out there, it's
Right.
$50.
Yeah.
The numbers, when we put it here, was not to try to scare people, everything was just an adjustment up, that's all. Just a slight adjustment.
All right, so did we have a motion? I
there's a
forget.
motion made and seconded, but I wonder whether they picked up all of your edits.
The only edits were to change these window siding roofing line to 100 apiece and to add each day as a new offense at the bottom.
And I agree with you on the residential, but why are you changing the
Well, because it was
window
50.
rate on,
It was 50 originally. So it was 50.
on commercial?
Yeah, it was 50. And so now
But
it's,
he said that was a typo and he meant 150, I thought he said.
And we talked him back down to 100.
yeah, and so if it's anything over, what is it, well,
Just why would,
$8,000, right?
Yeah, or 8,000, I'm sorry.
So what do you want to make that, Paul, 150? I mean, you can, it's higher, all the other ones are higher, right?
yeah, I'm just saying, why are we treating a homeowner who's repairing one window the same as a, commercial operation?
For the minimum,
Yeah,
it should be the same. Because the minimum is basically just to cover our cost. It's the same. It's the same. Because it's the same work. I'm going to walk in, I'm going to show my license, I'm going to fill out some paperwork, he's going to fill out a card, that's one inspection for a window. It's not like he's doing multiple inspections. There's a little bit of work down in the office, and someone has to process the payment.
Can I
For
just
the
ask one
minimum.
question?
Yeah.
For the sake of the windows, for the $100 fee, so that it's clear, How are we going to do that? Is that going to be based on the one window, or if somebody comes in with 4 windows?
Whatever the price is per thousand is the price, but the minimum fee was going to be 100. If you don't think it should be 100, then
Well, no, I'm
Well, then it
just,
kicks into the project.
right, so I mean, so if they come in at about $5,000 for windows, that's going to be under the $100.
Still gonna be 100.
All right, so that's why I just want to make sure that when we do this, we're all across the board the same with it, that's all.
yeah, that's the minimum fee.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. If you find that these aren't working or you're spending too much time, we can adjust them in 6
Okay.
months or a year. It's just.
Yeah. Typically, these window replacements, the companies, Anderson and Peller, they come in and they're in and out in a day, so it's pretty quick stuff, so.
Okay.
So do we have any idea of how much more we're going to collect in fees if we go to this?
Haven't put the numbers together on it. I'm working the first 2 quarters right now for percentage-wise, so I probably, next meeting, I can try to get some numbers for you.
Okay.
Any public comments on this? Building fees? Yes?
Yeah. When you replace something, why are you getting a permit? Like, you're replacing the window, you're replacing the door, the unit has already been built. What's the point, other than you collecting fees? What's going on?
I guess that's a building code question. I don't know.
You know what I mean?
If you've hired a contractor to do the job,
Yeah.
you're going to want us to come out and inspect it to be sure that it's been flashed, it's weather-tight on the outside, been caulking everything on the inside, and that's what we're looking for. We're just not driving up and looking at the window, we're going to be sure that it's done.
Secondly, at Lowe's, the schedule they have that the town fees collect, we're very high, i.e. a door. Some of them are $50 to come out and inspect, and we're $150.
Well, we just dropped it to 100.
We're 150 on what?
A door, to replace the door. What I'm saying is, there's a big difference between other towns and our town according to Lowe's. That's
I
all
don't see
I've been
doors
saying.
on here at all.
Yeah, I don't see doors on it.
Well, because it's just gonna fall under a building permit.
Yeah, so it's not,
So it's gonna hit-
so it's Lowe's that be charging them a lot of money to go out there.
Well, no, it's gonna hit the 150 minimum.
It's going to hit the 100, although there's not listed for the...
It'll hit the new 150.
Oh, it hit the old 150, is that what you're saying?
It'll hit the
Minimum
old
fee.
100.
It will
Now, the new single family,
The old fee was 150, minimum fee.
Yeah, so we changed it to $100,
So change it to 100, okay.
right?
Yep.
So that one's going down.
All right.
Well, are you saying we should put doors in with windows, siding, and roof?
no, a door is just a building permit.
Well, that's going to be 150.
It's gonna be 150.
So why wouldn't you put a door in with the windows? If it was just a door?
It's never just a door.
It's never just a door, okay.
Wish it was that easy.
Well, replacement is different. You can't just replace the door.
I think we're going to spend a lot of time on how much a door costs, but I don't know, we have a motion and
You have
a,
a motion, right?
we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded, all in favor of these fees? Okay, hey, thanks for all the work on this is great.
And I resisted the temptation to add an online discount.
Thank you, because you would have lost 4-1.
Yeah,
Have a good evening.
Thanks, Henry.
it's worth it for a principal.
Give that to Dave.
Thank you.
All right, great, thanks. Okay, so we have new appointments, Purcell and Planning Board. Now, Diane, you were going to call Marion for this,
Yeah.
or?
Yeah, but I
Could we
just-
take a
right.
2-minute break to set that up?
Just to move the mics for everyone.
Okay, and I guess, sure. If-
Unless you're okay with us
John?
moving mics around.
Late breaking news is that the planning board doesn't have a quorum here tonight. And in order for someone to vote remotely, normally they can vote remotely, but you need to have a quorum present in order for them to vote remotely.
Okay.
So
We had an opinion from Barbara
Barbara said it's okay for us to vote. The
Yeah,
planning board is
that the
clear.
quorum
There's somebody on the planning board that's here to vote, but what John's raising is can somebody who's online vote if there's no quorum?
Yes. And
They can create the quorum, can't they?
Somebody online can develop the quorum.
I believe the way that Barbara interpreted it is that it's a joint vote. It's not two separate bodies. So basically, the numbers combined get you the quorum.
Right, and we called her.
That's fine. How long is this going to take to set up?
Just 2 minutes, I have to move them.
Excuse me, it is just out.
Just
You have
out?
to move those little remote things out? I don't have to move the wireless mics out?
Yeah, just pick them up.
All right, you can do that, Well.
All right. Good.
All right.
Do you want to do the Conservation Commission?
Sure. Okay. We've got a recommendation for Michael Lesser, Conservation Commission, term to expire June 15th, 2019.
So moved.
Okay, any discussion, any second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I get a little bit of discussion, not, well, it's regarding conservation more than Michael. Isn't there several seats open?
Are
Or
there
are they
seven
not
seats
open
open on
yet?
Conservation Day?
Not that I know of.
Okay, they're not open yet.
No.
Thought there was a couple resignations.
I think that I'm expecting to get one, but I didn't know.
We did get it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so moved and seconded, and I think Michael does a lot of work on that board. A lot of work, and he goes to a lot of meetings. Okay, all in favor? Great, good, thanks. Okay, so did somebody dial up,
Yeah,
Mary?
I just need to dial her number.
Yeah, sure, that's great. Move over there. Hello, Mary, you're on the air with the Sherborn Planning Board and the Sherborn Board of Selectmen and the entire world by cable television. All right, so for remote participation, I think there's something I'm supposed to read on this, which is Mary and Neutral will be participating remotely because of unavoidable travel in accordance with Town of Sherborn's Board of Selectmen policy on remote participation. Mary, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, all votes will be taken by roll call vote. Anyone interested in speaking or providing comments must be recognized by the meeting chair before speaking. Once recognized, all speakers must come to the front of the room to be near the phone equipment, regardless of how brief the comment may be. Before offering a comment, the speaker must identify themselves by their first and last name every time they are recognized, and additionally should provide their home address the first time they are recognized. If a communication problem is encountered, we will take a brief break and try to resolve the issue. If the line disconnects, the remote participant is responsible for trying to reestablish the connection by dialing back in. If the problem cannot be resolved in a few minutes or continues to occur, the use of the equipment will be stopped. Background noise, conversations, and speaking without being recognized should be kept to a minimum, and we ask that all attendees remain quiet throughout the meeting unless recognized to speak. Okay, great. That's the preliminaries. What we're here to do as a joint planning board, Board of Selectmen committee is to consider an appointment of a planning board member to fill the term of, who is it? Is it Paul Putnam?
Yeah.
Okay. And that term will expire May 2018. And I understand you have a nomination or recommendation.
Well, before you get there, I have a general objection.
Okay.
As you all know, the town has a policy to advertise positions and to allow people to apply for it. As we all know, that there have been consultants that the town has hired, and they have identified the need for the town to be more open to volunteers and to have a more open process by which positions are filled. It's particularly true with elected boards. And here, this is the first time at this Board of Selectmen's meeting that a vacancy on the planning board is being announced, and we're being asked to fill it at the same meeting. That's inconsistent with pretty much everything that our consultants have said, and our policies, and our drive to increase participation by our citizens. In saying all this, I want to make clear that I have no objections at all to the individual who is seeking to fill the position. And I also understand and recognize the planning board's concern that it needs to fill the position quickly. Virtually every time you have a vacancy on an elected board, we hear the same thing, that this urgency has to be filled immediately and so on. And the way I would handle that is not to dispense with all procedure like this, like we're being asked to do tonight, but rather to abbreviate the procedure. So I would propose that we announce the vacancy tonight, establish a time for people to apply, and then to actually vote on this, not tonight, but at our next meeting. That next meeting, I believe, is in
July 13th.
July 13th. We could have an earlier meeting if necessary. But waiting 2 weeks or so, as opposed to the 30 days, seems to me a good balance of the competing interests, which is the need for the planning board to have a quorum and the compelling interests in making sure the positions are open to the public and that all who want to have an opportunity to participate in their own government have a chance to apply and be heard.
How would the same rationale apply to the Conservation Commission appointment that we just made?
That's different because it has been advertised.
That has been posted,
Yeah.
thank you.
I just want to make one comment. We've talked about this. One comment is, I believe it was mentioned at the June 9th meeting. So there has been some notice, but not 30 days.
I don't recall being told that Poe Putnam had resigned.
Not Poe Putnam, but the
Chris Tallman.
candidate was suggested. There's been definite awareness that the planning board is lacking. We had one recent resignation for kind of unforeseen circumstances, and another one that we had known was coming and was mentioned. Chris Tallman had to leave our town, much to the dismay of many people in town.
But he's still on the board.
He's still on it technically?
So
Okay.
I think, but in any case, I think it's up to you guys in terms of that issue. I'd propose, I'd ask that if necessary, I guess the alternative, I think, is to make a temporary appointment. One aspect of this is this is a one-year term, if functionally. So that's some protection.
John, how's it a one-year term? I thought it was May 2018 that this term expires.
That's a mistake. It goes to the next election.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't fill the unexpired term, you fill
Right, till the next annual election.
to the next
Yeah.
election. It's just a
So
mistake.
do you, no, keep that, we have our own.
No, the issue isn't, the issue for me is I'm committed to all the people of the town having an opportunity to come forward. And as I say, I've worked with the applicant that you may nominate tonight, and I think he's a great choice and have worked with him in connection with other town positions. But that's exactly the problem. The critics always say that it's the same people who just keep moving from board to board to board, as opposed to all these new people who are moving into town. This is their town too. And if we don't open it up to them to at least have an opportunity to send us a letter, and while something might have been mentioned at a meeting, it's different than putting an ad in the paper. It's different than posting something on our website. It's different than here at this meeting announcing that there's a vacancy and at least giving people a chance to participate. And while I would expect maybe the result would be the same, and we get to the same in terms of qualifications of the people who apply, at least have the door open to new people, particularly given the history of the criticism from the Collins Center and Department of Revenue and everybody else saying that our system was too closed. There weren't enough effort being made to reach out to other people.
How many people ran for the planning board seats this year?
Just me.
Yeah, I think just Abby.
Okay. So was there one seat open or two seats open?
Well, I ran for re-election.
So there were two seats open and two people ran for the two seats?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have a quorum right now? Without
Not
filling this?
physically present.
No, I mean,
We
with
can't
these
make
two
this-
vacancies, or has one of them not hit yet?
We have one vacancy right now, and we have another vacancy we anticipate in a week or so.
In a week or so. So in a week or so, if we don't make an appointment, you can't make a quorum?
Right.
This is a pretty dire time to have a planning
Yeah.
board that can't function.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the alternative, I think, is if you can make an appointment that's shorter term, make it 60 days or something
I'm
like
not
that.
sure you can do that. I mean, I don't know what our authority would be to change the term, but I mean, the reason I asked the question about who ran for planning board was that all the mythical people who want to step forward to work on the planning board don't seem to have surfaced during election season, except for Addie, and thank goodness. If you're going to have another seat open, I would think that would be a seat where, we might be begging people to step forward at that time, but at least they'd be able to step forward. And if, Paul can recruit somebody who's new to town, or if somebody else hears about it and steps forward, at least that's another seat that they could fill, because at this point, and do you have an associate member also? Is that position open, or?
We have an associate.
It's filled, but they can only vote on special permits, right? Yeah. So, I don't know, I mean, it's up to you, John. I mean, Paul makes some good points, but I also feel like you're under the gun a little bit with some of the projects you're trying to work on, and not to have a functional board is a hardship even for a month.
Can I test that? I mean, between now and July 13th, are there any deadlines that have to be met?
We have a meeting this week, but we anticipate, for instance, at our next meeting, which is, I'll look it up, but it's about the same week as,
July 13th, you said?
yeah, I think that sounds right. That we're anticipating that the library hearing would begin.
On July 13th?
Yeah.
And I will be present on July 13th.
So you're going to have three members there anyway?
Right, but she won't be present at the next one.
Depending on when the next one is scheduled. If it's the 20th, I will be present. Oh, sorry, this is Marion Winter, 25 Prospect Street.
We know.
She has to say that.
If it is on the 20th, there was some question of whether we might move that later July meeting to the 20th. In that case, I would be present.
All right.
So it just seems to me the compromise I'm trying to offer is, rather than taking 30 days and going through the full process on the one seat, not the other seat that hasn't even, a resignation hasn't occurred, and though you are anticipating it, I don't think it's fair to a member to start advertising his position even before he resigns. But on the one position where you do have a vacancy, I'm suggesting that we compromise by cutting the 30 days to 15 days and get it done quickly, and at least have the appearance of being open for people to apply.
I think it's more than an appearance.
Yeah.
I think it's a good faith effort, and I have to say, what you say really resonates with me, and particularly if you're willing to, cut it shorter than 30 days. And it sounds like you'll have a quorum on the 13th. You could appoint that person that night, and you'd be in business after that.
That sounds reasonable, and Paul, you make a good point, so I think that's a good idea.
It
I think we
happens to
should-
coincide with our meeting.
Yeah, but I think we should do that on every board, Paul. And, land acquisition last week, for example, we appointed people on the spot or recommended appointments of people on the spot. There was no advertising for that. It's got to be every board. It can't just be selectively. And we've tried to do it for every board, but there are exceptions. And, I haven't, like last week, I didn't call you on that one. But, I'd be more inclined to in the future
Well, actually,
call those out.
I've asked to have that on the agenda. It's that and the qualifications of the people on it, so we will be talking about it in a few minutes.
But this has been, this was posted locally last week. The only place it hasn't run is,
Which
since the
is
13th.
Planning board.
The planning board position. The only place it hasn't run is in the paper because of the timing of the weekly paper. But it has been on our boards, our website since the 13th.
I mean, I'm sensing we've got a majority maybe that is saying July 13th is soon enough. So if that's the case, then we should make a decision one way or the other.
Is there a motion pending? I don't think there is.
There's no motion pending.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess for me, it means we won't have a meeting this week.
You have, Mr. Tillman's still on your board.
Yeah,
You have enough to have a meeting this week.
yeah, if he gets back. But yes, no, that's right. So I think the idea of postponing this for a 15-day, it'll be, to David's point, I guess it'll make it over 20 days, where it's been at least made notice in some public notice.
But not at this meeting.
Yeah. So so let's do this at your next meeting.
Thank you.
So is that a motion to table this until the next meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right. So we'll take a roll call vote. Addie Mae Weiss.
Motion approved.
Just vote, yeah. I vote in favor.
Right. Mark? Yes. I'm opposed. Paul?
I vote aye.
Chuck?
Aye.
Okay, great.
All right.
And
Thank you.
Mary Ann?
Oh, Mary Ann, sorry, you're on the phone.
Yes, I'm on the phone. I'm in favor
Okay.
of postponing till July 13th.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you
everybody.
all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
All right, next up, consideration of land acquisition committee
You
appointments.
have another appointment while we're doing
What's that? Oh, yeah, that's right, we were going to add that. Chuck, before we talk about this, since Zach is here, Sean, why don't you walk us through this next one?
It was, I'm not sure of the date, about a year ago, we were notified that we needed to fill the vacancy for the trustees for Leland Farms. And I've recently got to know Mr. Zach Spillman. Sure, if you want to. And he expressed an interest in trying to help. And I think it's a critical seat to fill on a board right now with what they made a presentation last week about some help. We need some representation as the town, and I think they need some help from the town. So.
And this is a board that's been advertised a long time.
I think almost a year. So I think we're lucky to have someone as good as Zach to step up and take this role. There was certainly no fight for the seat, but I think we picked a good one.
Great.
Anything you want to say, Zach? I guess I should move to appoint Zach.
Sure.
Term, I don't have it in front of me when that term will expire.
David, do you know, is there even an expiration?
Let's do 3 years.
Yeah, I had written down 3 years.
3 years? Okay.
So I'll second your motion to appoint him for a 3-year term expiring June 15, 2019.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Well, why don't you have him say a few words and introduce himself to the...
Well, what if we don't nominate him, then he's talking for no reason.
It's a waste of time.
All right, so all in favor on the vote? That's great, okay. And thank you for agreeing to serve. You've now been elected. You'll need to be sworn in. And, if you want to say a few words, the mic's all yours.
Well, just that, we're talking a lot right now about affordable housing, about municipal-sponsored affordable housing. I think that Leland Farms is either an example that we should follow or a cautionary tale, or probably, and realistically, somewhere in between. So I'm interested in taking a look at it and seeing what I can do to make things better, see what I can do to prevent things from getting worse, maybe. And then what lessons we can learn from that and how we can use those in other places in town.
That's great. Thanks. And I think David will have a wealth of background information on this for you if you haven't already talked with him about it.
I got an electronic package that was
Did you? Okay, good. All right. Excellent. Yeah, no, because there's no shortage of reading material for you at this point.
And that didn't scare me away.
Good.
I don't know about it.
Maybe it's better to start fresh.
Thank you very much for being willing to do this, and thanks, Sean, for finding somebody so good to do this. It's great. Okay, now we have consideration of land acquisition appointments. Chuck.
Yeah, I was, after our last meeting, I was looking at the warrant from the April 1995 annual town meeting, setting up the land acquisition committee, and the moderator can appoint has two general appointments, but the 5 committees, to qualify to be a member of the land acquisition committee, the language of the warrant is, the committee shall consist of one member from and designated by each of the following 5 boards: Concom, Planning Board, Board of Selectmen, Capital Budget, and the Open Space Committee. I read that plain language as to say that to qualify, you need to be a member of the committee. And we looked at this last week pretty quickly, and I just think it merits discussion. I agree with Paul's comments that a number of the people that have served on this have done a great job, but it's also helpful to have a lot of new people involved. So there's also, I think, a good policy rationale for having, like the ad hoc 40B committee, members of the board who can report back and be a liaison between the committee. So I wanted to open it up for discussion. Paul raises another good point, which is, were these posted? I don't know the answer to that.
Land acquisition, no.
I think some of the same rationales for posting apply equally well to this committee as to any other committee, so.
Well, if I could, way back when, on a board of selectmen of which I was a member, we appointed a member from this board to this land acquisition committee. The warrant article said the appointments were indefinite. There was no term limit. And so the question came up, when the board member no longer served on the board, does that mean that he or she could no longer continue in that position? And we did obtain advice of counsel that said no, that the member appointed continues in office until someone else is appointed. I agree with you that we have the power at any time to appoint a new member of the board to that position. What I thought we were discussing last meeting was that during the period of time, it must be 20 years now, all the prior boards have decided to leave our representative there, A, because he was willing to continue to serve, and B, because the continuity is important. if we change members on a committee like land acquisition on a frequent basis, all the work and the history of looking at different parcels and having a sense of what's out there and what's not out there gets lost. Of all the boards and committees in town, one that is got a longer term view is really important. And when I say longer term, once you acquire real estate, essentially you own it for, at least for the town's history, pretty much forever. We don't frequently dispose of town-owned land. So you want people who have the very long perspective on this. So for that reason, and as sanctioned by town council, we've left our representative there. And so has that similar leaving alone has occurred by other appointing authorities for a long period of time. So we've had a relatively stable land acquisition committee. To your argument that fresh blood is important, I do note that there is some fresh blood that's recently been appointed. I think the Conservation Commission added a new member.
As did Planning Board, all current members of those boards. Mary Neutra was appointed by the Planning Board. She is a current member of the Planning Board. Jessica Pettit is a current member.
Conservation
Commission, and Laura Van Blarkum is a current member of the Open Space Committee. I don't think these are, we may want to make that appointment. I'm not sure that it is consistent with the clear language of the warrant article. You're correct, it does not have a term limit. It doesn't suggest that it's indefinite, though. These aren't lifelong appointments, and I think we should, the warrant article made a clear distinction between the 5 committees making appointments and the moderator's appointments. And
I'm not suggesting a new appointment. If we are going to make a new appointment, then I agree with you, it has to be a member of the board. And because it has to be a member of the board, it's not one that I think we need to advertise, because there's only 5 members who can there's only 5 people who can fill the seat.
I looked for the town council opinion that you mentioned, Paul, to me. I couldn't find it, so I would be interested in seeing it. I don't know what premises or assumptions were made in the question posed to town council that can be critical in terms of any opinion letter from council. But I couldn't find it when I went through the reading files, including going back some ways. I don't know when it occurred, but I'd be interested in seeing the opinion letter. It really is a process question of following what I think is the clear language of the annual town meeting. If we have an opinion of council, that means we can certainly follow it legally. I'm not sure it's good policy, but 21 years is a long time.
I think it was Bill Leahy was our town council. That would have been
Before Norm.
No, it was after Norm. It was maybe in the late 1990s or early 2000s. It's hard to... what was the date of the formation of the committee?
Well, it's 1995, so our member's been on for 21 years.
So it would have been 98 or 99, somewhere in there. And the records of the town are often hard to find. It's not just this town. I know in other towns it's been very hard to find public records. So simply not finding it doesn't mean that it's not there. But perhaps the real issue is, I think it's true that we can appoint one of us, the 5 of us, to fill this position. I think it's also true that we can continue our present member, our present appointee. And so that's really the policy issue here. It's not really a legal issue. And my view is if a person's doing the job and is willing to continue to do the job, unless there's something that they're doing that is egregious, I tend to reappoint people. So I would say the board should stay where we were at the last meeting, which is to leave this alone. My final point would be at any time we can make a change. At any time. So if that's the case, why do it tonight?
What committee is Frank Jenkins appointed by? I know he was sort of the sponsor who came in last week and said they
I
wanted
think
to
he was the
reorganize.
moderator appointment.
He was a moderator appointment. Because it strikes me, we haven't heard from the Land Acquisition Committee in a long time, so...
I looked through a couple of last annual town reports and in active years.
So I mean, and again, this is without prejudice to the person who's our representative on that board, but there hasn't been a lot going on. To say leave well enough alone, I think it's been left completely alone. And Frank, to his credit, is seeing the 61A parcels coming into play and wanting to do something about it, but that's been, something that could have been addressed at any point in time if we'd had an active land acquisition committee. We don't. We're going to. It sounds like we're going to, but we don't. That's neither here nor there with respect to your desire to leave things as they are now.
Well, the way that land acquisition has worked over the years is that they have responded essentially to the Board of Selectmen when opportunities comes along. And so when we had a potential 61A issue come before us, I did send that information to our representative.
I remember you did that. Yep.
And he got Frank Jenkins involved with it and the other members, and then they had a meeting to discuss it. I mean, it's not exactly a high-paying job, and it's not one that has any benefits to it, and volunteers are hard to find. And when you have one that's essentially always been there when you needed him, my recommendation last time and my recommendation today is not to change it unless or until there's a real reason to make a change.
I would think the first reason would be if anybody else is interested in it. If somebody else, no selectman is interested in it, then I could see continuing. But I did want to note that a previous selectman, when he wasn't running, was interested in continuing in a position, and I gave him a notice that he was no longer qualified to be the appointed person, and we went and advertised and looked for somebody else for that seat. That was the 495 partnership. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
But they did allow him to continue to the end of his term. So the
To the end,
495 people kind of overruled that notion.
To the end of the term, which is, it was about 2 or 3 months later.
He was appointed for a finite term, I think it was 1 year, and really enjoyed it, by the way. I would have let him continue longer as a matter of courtesy to former selectmen.
That was the board's decision, not our board. That was the 495 commission's decision,
Yes.
or whatever it is.
Not to push the issue, and they let him stay.
But it was their ruling that
Their rules that it
required
had
us
to be the person from the board.
Yeah.
Right. That they could not continue.
But we're kind of a little off topic.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else on the board is interested in the Land Acquisition Committee. I think the ad hoc 40B committee is critical and really important now, and I'm hoping one of us will step forward for that.
I think that's great. You want to do both of them?
No. That's not what I said, Sean. I take back what
It's a long distance
I
down
take
there.
back what I said about the burn permit.
Let's not get burned now.
Is there any interest on the board in being on the land acquisition? Because the pragmatic answer is what David suggested, which is, I think, contrary to the plain language of the warrant article, but
Well, maybe what we should do is put on the warrant for next year some clarifying language. If the idea is that we're just making an appointment, it doesn't have to be somebody on this board, let's put that before the town and see if they go along with it.
I think that's a much better result. You know, we have so many responsibilities here. If it always has to be a member of the board, I mean, we're all busy.
Doing all that stuff.
It's much better for this board to be able to make a more general appointment, particularly land acquisition. If we had somebody who's expert at land acquisition up there, that's a great suggestion.
So are we supposed to, we're not supposed to advertise this?
Do not advertise.
You don't want other people coming forward to may be interested because they didn't qualify as a selectman 20 years ago, right?
they were not from the committee.
Well, under Chuck's reading of the law,
Right.
if you have to be a member of the committee, there's only 5 here. So I think we're all on notice, so to advertise it so the 5 of us can read it in the newspaper.
Somebody did promise there'd be less work with 5 selectmen than 3. You remember that person?
That was Chuck.
Guilty as charged, yeah. It's a base of 5 rather than 3, that's better.
All right, so at this point, we're tabling the discussion? Is that?
I would like to do that, and, you know, if a need arises, then we can always take action on this. There's no limit.
And I was asked by the chair of capital budget to report back to him on what we do tonight. And I think what I'm going to report to him is we decided to do nothing.
Yeah.
But they are free to do whatever they're inclined to do because I think they may also be concerned about the same language question.
Yeah, if they're going to make a new appointment, apparently it has to be from capital budget.
That's, the chair of capital budget is concerned about that.
Yes,
yeah.
that's right.
So-
And I think the other thing that came out of last meeting, which I heard indirectly, was there was some sense we were trying to strong-arm appointments with capital budget, with a moderator, which was not my understanding at all of what we were doing. We were following Frank Jenkins' suggestion that there were people who had stepped forward. So I just don't want anybody to misapprehend what was going on last week, which was we were I think trying to accommodate Frank's suggestion as to who was willing to serve and how they might be allowed to serve.
And it was a request that the fellow committees consider.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Right, I
that's
think
certainly
the
that direction.
Didn't you send a letter, and didn't you use the word consider?
I would not have sent a letter, but maybe Diane or David did. I don't know. I think
Sent an
email, yeah.
asking to consider.
You used the word consider.
Because that was the vote.
Okay, just to be clear, in case, because I've heard that there may have been some misunderstandings of how that was directed, so.
So can we, we'll put this on another agenda to put forward at town meeting a revision to this,
Yes.
right? Potentially dropping the word about one member from, because I mean, this is something the town has decided is assigned to us to do. I don't think just because nobody wants to do it, we should walk away from it. So we should either appoint somebody from the board, or we should change this thing. I don't know how many other boards have got prerequisite requirements for membership. I can't remember a lot of them. But
Well, that's
I don't know
why-
why that would be required in this case and not in other cases.
Well, that's why I agree with Mike that we ought to change the language. We ought to go to the town, present this issue to them, leave it up to the voters. And if the voters say, no, we want a sitting selectman,
Then we'll tell them Chuck wouldn't do it.
Unless you double my salary. Oh, wait, you can do that pretty easily, so.
Done. Doesn't even take a vote.
All right, let's go. Let's move forward. Reserve fund transfer requests and insurance carriers, David.
Yes. Can I do a couple of items under town administrator report?
Sure,
first?
yep.
Just one note that I had sent out is that there was another grant program that we learned that we had received. It's through the Community Compact Program. It's the technology grant that we had discussed 2 or 3 months ago. So the amount is $16,000 on that. We had identified several projects, but they asked us to put the money towards one. So the biggest project happened to be the telecommunications project that we were working on with the phone system for Town Hall. So when you combine that money with the earmark from a bill last year, the whole telephone system and the fiber connection between the police department and the town hall, including all new equipment, new features, will be completely grant funded. There's no local town building money, no taxpayer money. So we'll be brought up into the current century as far as our current century. It will improve communication
plan to
between
replace it for
employees and
another
offices.
84 years? or-
For example, if you wanted to call in and leave Diane specifically a voicemail, you'll be able to do that, or me.
Can't
or
do that
both of
now.
us.
That would be incredible.
No.
No more cranking?
Yeah.
So we can save the
All right,
operator
well,
position.
that's great, David.
Yep,
Good
so that's
work
good.
on that.
Voicemail.
And I sent you something out that had more information on that. Also, there was, back along, there was a Public Safety Committee had voted in a recent meeting to request a review by town council of their open meeting compliance. And I had met with Arthur Fenno, who's the chair of the Public Safety Committee, and explained to him that prior to his committee taking that vote, that I'd already discussed this with the selectman chair, and the selectman chair had requested I look into this matter and report back to the board if I had found anything, but I had never reported back. So I did review the past issues that we've had with other committees regarding open meeting law compliance and reviewed the open meeting law handbook, looked at the meeting announcements and the meeting minutes that were provided by the Public Safety Committee, and I didn't find any violations of open meeting laws regarding the committee's meeting schedule and compliance, so I didn't bring anything back to recommend going to town council. I just wanted to close that out, that as we did discuss one time before, our office will try to work with all boards and committees to provide better filing of minutes and in a timely manner. And we have already begun chasing some of those minutes down from other committees. So for this purpose, I just wanted to close the loop on that, and my role is closed on that. So
Thank you.
the reserve fund transfers that we had been talking about was there was a miscalculation on the salaries of salaried employees. So we've been trying to nail down exactly how much that transfer would be. Since then, we've discussed the matter with each of the individual employees and have worked out payback for the amount that was overpaid. So the list that was provided earlier in an earlier meeting, those amounts will all be paid back. But it will be, some are paying back FY16 and some are paying at the beginning of FY17. So that will affect the transfer. And also, working with Suzanne Marchand, the finance consultant, I can't come up with that transfer amount right now because really the amounts that transfers is the amount to make the department whole. So some of these amounts will not require a transfer because there was existing salary money in the salary line. So there is no transfer to approve tonight, but we will be getting a better number, and it will be, less than half will be needed of what we originally thought it would be.
You said the total number is less than, what, $4,000 or $5,000 anyway?
Yeah, it will not exceed $4,000, the transfer. But Suzanne thought that a number of those departments already have money sitting in their salary lines to, may not require a transfer. But the important thing was that we did discuss with each employee, and the money that was overpaid is being paid back.
That's great.
The other item, this we'd worked on at least 6 months. This was trying to get a competitive quote for property insurance.
Before you go into that, I think I have to recuse myself because our current carrier is MIA.
Yep.
But we're not taking a vote at this point, are we?
Well, I was going to say that we removed that from the agenda, so there is no, unless somebody wanted to ask any questions about why it was moved or not, then it's not on the agenda. You voted to amend the agenda and remove the item. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Just for the record.
Nothing to
So don't talk
discuss.
about it.
There's nothing to discuss.
It's gone.
But if you had questions, you can see me personally or something. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm on a board that is the parent of MIIA, and while I have no financial interest personally, because I'm a director, state law says that that's a conflict enough, so I would have to exclude myself had it been on the agenda.
Okay.
That's what this discussion was.
Right. So we removed that item from the agenda, and we added back the comments for the Inspector General. And there was information provided by council in reviewing the Board of Health comments. What council is recommending is, they said, I think this letter should come from the Board of Health Chair, and that the Board of Selectmen should maybe send a brief letter concurring with the Board of Health's response. And in the packet, there were edits that were recommended by council to the Board of Health letter, and we just needed you to review council's edits to the Board of Health letter and take, I guess, accept council's recommendation that the Board of Selectmen would issue a letter in concurrence with the comments. And I was hoping I could just work with Mike on a letter supporting the Board of Health comments as recommended by council.
Well, I haven't seen this before. It wasn't in the packet.
Yeah, this wasn't actually in the packet, right?
No, we did. Did we distribute it tonight?
We've never discussed this, David.
No. That's right. I'm sorry. This is the first time you're seeing the Board of Health letter. It came over this morning from council with their edits. So council is recommending that the edits that they're recommending be incorporated into the Board of Health letter, and the Board of Selectmen agree to concur with the Board of Health's response.
I don't know that I want to concur with the Board of Health's response. It seems like most of these issues are addressed at the Board of Health, and I'm not sure we're aligned with them on everything they're saying or what they're concluding based on investigations and based on the status of where the investigations in other towns are. I mean, I think if there are things we can do as a Board of Selectmen to improve accountability, for example, I see there's a line in here that talks about how the town administrator is developing a policy requiring employees to disclose outside employment, you know, something concerning the town's policy to time fraud, with respect to stopping time fraud, and we can point out that we conducted the initial investigation on this, but I'm not sure there's anything that we can say. First of all, we don't control the Board of Health, which has, you know, been one of the tensions in this whole discussion for all along. So we really can't say that we're endorsing or doing anything that they're doing. They're making those decisions. I feel like the less we say, the better in terms of a response.
I agree with that completely. This letter refers extensively to actions of a separate elected board in an investigation that I'm not privy to. So I think we need a separate response from the Board of Selectmen.
I agree. I'm particularly concerned that I've seen evidence now of documentary evidence that the health agent was working on Sherborn matters during the time he was being paid by Norfolk. So that, not Norfolk, Ashland. That was a very disturbing piece of information that came to me by email. So I haven't separately investigated, I haven't separately verified all the documents. But if true, it's quite troubling to me that a town would be paying somebody to be in Ashland working on Ashland problems and solutions from like 8 o'clock in the morning until, I forget the time, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And at 8:33, he is issuing a report on Sherborn business and billing Sherborn and getting paid by Ashland. So if anything, I'm very uncomfortable to say that investigations have shown nothing and did not find evidence and all this kind of stuff. I'm not comfortable with agreeing with all of that, having seen these documents. Again, I didn't solicit this, this came to me unsolicited, but having seen it, it was very compelling. I don't know whether it went to you or just to me, but it was very compelling. So I don't want to concur with anything until I've really looked at it carefully.
Also, I think there's, go ahead, Mark, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There's a fundamental difference in their response and our response. We already conducted an investigation. The Board of Health, when the newbies weren't on it, when you all were on it, you conducted an investigation. This references a new investigation. The response is going to be very different. We're talking about adopting town-wide policies that apply to the Board of Health and everyone. So I couldn't agree with you more, Paul. This should be a separate response from the Board of Selectmen.
Do we even need to do a response?
Well, that's, you had a discussion with
Before we
the IG.
spend more money on attorneys drafting that response?
Well, they understood the, that we had done a lot, and that the Board of Health is its own elected body and has its right to its own hiring. So I think that's why council was saying that you didn't need to specifically provide a response. You're not reinvestigating anything. It's a new investigation to Ashland, so they are, taking time to investigate. But
Maybe we give an answer along the lines of what we've already done, recommendations we've already made to the Board of Health, the vote we took the night that this first came to light, and then say we understand that other bodies are conducting investigations and that we are going to be attentive to those results, and if warranted, we'll conduct further investigation if warranted by the findings of, the other ongoing investigations.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty straightforward letter. I think Mark's right. We don't need outside counsel to review this. There's plenty of legal expertise down at that end of the table.
There were 3 lawyers up here.
Oh, I got the wrong end of the table.
so either
You were definitely at the wrong end of the table.
either we pull something together to approve on July 13th.
I think you could tell them we discussed it, we don't have a meeting until July 13th, and we expect to get them a response shortly after that. As long as they're okay with that, David, I think that's fine.
Yeah, Ashland is their letter is basically a placeholder that they're investigating it. Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, you could do that by an email back to the IG's office.
I'll
and
call
just
them
say-
and verify.
Call them,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. And then send it by email. That's all I had under that item.
Okay, all right. We have a meeting July 13th. Do we want to set a meeting after July 13th? Or do we want to just stop meeting after July 13th?
Can I make a request? Because I think one of the things that's exempt from open meeting law is scheduling of meetings via email and so on.
Yeah.
Could we
Try
do
to do
that?
by email.
Because, I hate to just pick something and then
Okay.
come back and ask you to change it or not be available.
Okay.
But having said that, if you want to do the one after the 13th,
Well, I
we'll
was
get
just
together on
thinking
your-
maybe we could do the 27th, which we kind of tentatively held. I think we tentatively held the 27th and the 28th, waiting for you to come back, Mark.
So let me not hold you up any longer. We're still talking, no,
We held Wednesday and Thursday. We didn't know if one of the...
no, we're talking July, obviously.
July, yes,
yeah.
that's right.
I can do either.
You can do either, so what's the preference of the board, Wednesday or Thursday? You want to stick with Thursday, the 28th?
Either one's fine for me.
You okay with either one, Sean?
I'm okay with either. the
Wednesday's
27th.
better.
Wednesday's better? Okay, fine.
If it doesn't matter to anyone else.
27th, that's fine.
There is a app that you can download. I forget its name, but it's a scheduling thing.
Yeah, Doodle or
Doodle,
something like that.
And if you send that around to everybody, everybody basically puts their calendar into it, and it computes.
Do I get a $5 discount if I do it that way, Paul?
No,
For you, $10.
$4.50.
But it's pretty convenient. We use it on some of my state boards. It's pretty straightforward.
So the July 13th, July 27th, our next meeting, we've approved the minutes, we did the payroll warrants. I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn, if anybody has such a motion. We want to adjourn?
So moved.
Hey, great, we're out of here.
Was there a second?
Thanks, Chuck.
No, I didn't second. I'm voting against it.
Yeah, let's stay here longer.